It's okay. It's recording. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the inaugural first episode of NickTok podcast, where I'm going to be interviewing people from sport media, learning their journey throughout sports and how they got into sports media. The first episode today, I have a special guest who is the NHL analyst and host of Yahoo Sports and Trevor Moore superfan, Mike Stevens. How's it going?
It's going great. Thanks. I'm honored to be to kick this thing off, be the first
Yeah,
guest.
it's gonna be a good talk. We have a lot to talk about.
A good Nick
From
talk.
oh yeah, oh wow, we're already
Oh yeah.
going with the puns. So I want to know, just to start, you went from a contributor from the Leafs Nation
hmm
to the site expert editor in Leaf, back to the Leafs Nation as managing editor, to Yahoo. How did you go through that process, and how did you get to the point where you are now?
Well, yeah. You know what? So essentially, if you really want like the full story, I guess. So I've always wanted to like ever since I realized I wasn't good enough to make the NHL, I wanted to be like a broadcaster. Like I remember growing up watching Jay and Dan every morning. Like as every Canadian kid did. Um, and going through that. And so, and I actually, so I went to school at U of T, just graduated this past, I guess, December. And I always thought I was going to be a lawyer. So I went for political science and, American studies and went through all that. And for some reason, I think it was now like 4 years ago now, I was working an internship at this like property management firm downtown. And I hated it. Like I hated it. My job consisted of waiting for a lot of people to get back to me. And it was just so boring. And I'm like, if this is what my life is going to be like I hate this. I want to do like the only time I was really happy was, in the morning when I was reading articles before I actually got into work. And so I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go for it. Like I've always wanted to do this. So I knew someone, I think David Morisuti works at Sportsnet now. He was a site expert for and they have to call them site experts at Fansided, which I'm not a huge fan of. Whatever. He was a site expert for, I think it was, I can't remember what the site's called, but it was not Editor in Leaf, but a different site. And he said, hey, and I just reached out to me like, hey, are you guys like taking applications? And he said, sure, just go over. Well, like apply and then start writing. And so I did, and I just essentially, when I was waiting for people to get back to me at this job, I just started writing about, for free about that. And then what kind of happened and what kind of shifted is the rookie tournament was in Toronto that year. It was at Ricoh Coliseum. This was 2017. And so I thought, no one's covering this. Like at least like blogs likewise, no one's really covering this. Not even a lot of mainstream media is covering this. So I'm not going to get a press pass at this point. Cause I'm writing for a random blog for like, 2 months or something. So I paid out of pocket, went down to the rookie tournament, and essentially just like scouted, like took notes, whatever, and then and then basically wrote about covered it that way, just paid out of pocket, and eventually I met, that's when I first met Omar White, Tic Tac Tomar, and he actually had a press pass. He was covering for the Habs at the time. Anyway, long rambling way. Essentially, I networked my way at that tournament into the head of PR for the Marlies. Essentially, and I said, no one's really covering the Marlies. Like this is like, half this team is going to be Leafs next year. So I might as well, pitch how I'd like to cover them. She gave me, credentials and went from there. And yeah. And then so wrote for Editor in Leaf, and then eventually became the site manager or site co-manager, about, I'd say maybe 4 months later. And it was great. It was really tough to write, like, cause when you're working as site manager, it's basically a full-time job. Like you have to write something every single day. At least one thing every single day. You have to manage all the staff. You were there for a while under me as well. So, hopefully I wasn't too bad of a managing editor there. And then, yeah. And so it was tough to do that in terms of also going to school, full time and everything, but, went there. And then eventually, Leafs Nation reached out to me and said, we're our managing editor's leaving, Adam Lascaris. So we thought, you'd like to join. And I love Leafs Nation. I love Leafs Nation, ever since I was a kid. Did that. And then eventually, yeah, I just kept working there, wanted to build it to wanted to build that site back to kind of where it was back in when I was in high school, reading that kind of stuff. And then eventually, I was the one who reached out to Yahoo. I kind of applied for an internship at that point. just and you know, ended up talking to people, and one thing led to another, and landed there, and I couldn't be happier. I love working there. Get to do, you know, get to talk about the Leafs for a living. Like it's literally the dream. I get paid to do something that people would tell me to shut up about, you know, most of my life. So it's a dream. Yeah. So essentially, like what you know, I went to school for nothing related to hockey or media or anything, but you know, I wanted to do this, and I would say, like, there are a lot of people out there, like, people kind of ask me, you know, like, how do I get into this business, like, do I have to apply for sports media? And I'm like, I'm sure it would help, like, I'm sure I'd be better than I am right now because I'm not that good, but just get yourself out there, just get your foot in the door, like there are a lot of opportunities, and I'm not a big fan of the unpaid internship at all. I think everyone should kind of be paid for any work they do. But you know, I started writing for free, and you just essentially, if you get your foot in the door, who knows what can happen. So just put yourself out there. It's like exactly what you're doing. Like you're starting up this podcast. You have a YouTube channel. You know, you're all over all the things that the youths like to consume, and everything, and you're doing a great job. So yeah, that's essentially the journey in a nutshell that only took me like 5 minutes to explain.
One of the interesting things though that throughout all this is that you did all this, like you were an expert at editor and Leaf, you were the managing editor, you did that all throughout school, and it was university. How did you manage all of that work?
I didn't. Like I would not recommend that to anyone. It was the hardest. It was like the hardest experience of my life. I'm not gonna lie. Like U of T is tough, and I was in a pretty demanding program, and you know, on top of, you know, being a managing editor for Editor and Leaf, and then also working the Marlies beat at the same time. You know, you're kind of doing those three things concurrently. You didn't get a lot of sleep. Basically, didn't sleep for like 2 years. You know, you know, it was really tough. Like I wouldn't. I'm paying for it now, essentially. Like, what, to be completely real, like I probably should have paced myself a bit, and I was very focused on, you know, like getting to the top, you know, like making it, and making a name for myself and everything, which is fine. But at the same time, if you're doing that at the expense of your, you know, your mental health, of your physical health, even, you know, nothing's more important than taking care of yourself. And so I would recommend, you know, obviously chase your passions, but don't, you know, put yourself in jeopardy or anything by doing that. But yeah, no, it was tough. It took a lot of discipline. Um, but yeah, no, like I said, I would. My dad actually, funny enough, when I got the um, or when I was offered the site expert role at you know, Editor and Leaf, you know, I run everything kind of by my dad because he's, you know, he's the guy, you know, you turn to, and he advised me. He's like, look, I'm proud of you, but like, don't take this. You already have so much on your plate. I'm like, you know what, Dad, I'm gonna take it. I'm living. This isn't your dream, or this is my dream. This is yours. No, some, like, you know, Disney Channel movie kind of thing. So I took it, and he always makes fun of me now. Not makes fun of me, but he's always like, well, I'm so glad you didn't take my advice. I'm like, I probably should have, just for the sake of, you know, the mental faculties. But yeah, I would recommend, you know, not stretching yourself too much, but you know, it was worth it in the end, but it was a tough road getting there.
So going off that, you're talking about like being mentally stable through
Mhm.
like all this and stuff. You posted a lot about running.
Yeah.
You ran like a marathon every day, and I was like, how is that even possible? But I want to know what made you start like posting that and showing people, like your followers, on both Twitter and Instagram, that.
So yeah, basically I in about, like, in really early May, like May 4th is actually like when I think about it. I essentially, you know, you just hit a breaking point. Like I was someone who, like, I've had anxiety my whole life, and I was struggling a bit with depression. And I just like for years I was always like, I don't need to see someone, like I'm fine, you know, like the typical, like I was raised in a, you know, in a household that, not like, don't want to, you know, put any blame on my parents or anything, but you're just kind of raised in a culture of, you know, like, just kind of suck it up, tough it up, and you kind of hit a breaking point, and that was my breaking point. So I said, you know what, I'm actually going to start taking care of myself, going to, you know, see a therapist and stuff. And one big thing that really kind of helped me get through that was running. So I would literally, like, for about, I you probably, again, should have taken breaks, because I ran, you know, like 20 to 35 kilometers every day for 43 straight days, and hurt my patellar tendon. And so now I haven't been able to run for about 3 weeks, which is a bit of a bummer. But no, it really helped. And I thought, you know, I only tend to kind of post joking stuff for hockey on Twitter, but I thought, you know what, like, not talking to people kind of got me to that mental place. which wasn't a good one. And so I thought, you know what, like I'm just gonna put it out there. Like it's fun, and I'm proud of myself for the distances that I'm doing, and and doing that. Like I would wake up at like 5 a.m. and go for a run, and then spend the rest of the day kind of like resting because there was no hockey going on. And I thought, you know what, like it's good to wake up in the morning and immediately kind of accomplish something, like set a goal and immediately accomplish it. Like I would literally like after, because I had to split it up into legs. And after my first leg, I'd literally tell myself like, proud of you, Mike, like F yeah, good job. Just for something like that. And I thought, you know what, like put it out there, show people, like everyone loves to post, like everyone loves to post their fitness stuff. This is the thing that I did. And hope it wasn't too pretentious or anything, but it was good. And I can't wait to, when my knee allows me to go do it again.
Go run multiple marathons
Yeah.
in a
Well,
week.
my goal was to run, like, because you run the equivalent of a marathon in like, one go, like in one day. By the time hockey started back up again, I had to go back to work. And so unless, and unless I heal up, in the next couple of days and am able to bang it out one, unfortunately, I don't think I'll hit that goal, but I'm, proud of myself, got in good shape and kept going from there.
Would you ever want to run like a marathon, like a real one?
Yeah, it's, man, I, like it would take me like 4 hours to do those runs. And I, like, the guy who set the world record for marathon running, I think he did it in like an hour and 59 minutes. Like I don't know how that's possible. So I would do it, but like I don't know if I would post my time on that because a I wouldn't be splitting it up into legs like I did before, and b it would be pretty rough. Like, it would be like in last place at 5 hours and like 52 minutes. It's Mike Stevens, and I'd be like, I did it. Like that'd be about it.
Yeah, I can't. I've tried to run. I can do like 5.5K and then that's it. That's
It's calming. Like you get to, like what I liked is like I worked out, like I played hockey, so I worked out my whole life, and that's good. But gyms are closed, and what I liked about running, or like about running, is that you can literally just like it's just a repetitive motion. It takes no brain power, which is right up my alley. You just turn your brain off, listen to like a podcast or something, or music, whatever. I like podcasts just because I like to be calm when running. And you just kind of go, and you feel good. You feel drained. It helps with sleep and all that. But so yeah, running is it's good. Can't wait to do it again.
okay. So
Mhm.
going back to hockey for a second, going back to your time covering the Marlies,
Yeah.
I want to know, what was your favorite moment out of all of it?
Oh man, they're so, like, that was covering the Marlies, was especially that first season, which is when they won the Calder Cup, was the most, like, it was the craziest moment ever, because I just essentially was tossed right into the fire on that one. Like, it was my first ever kind of media experience, and you're talking to guys who became Leafs. It was really cool. My favorite moment, I mean, them winning the Calder Cup was incredible. Like, I was like, that was, like, as a guy who had looked up to, like, my heroes. A lot of people look up to like the athletes as their heroes. My heroes are the broadcasters, and I'm pretty sure I was sitting in between like Kristen Shilton and Chris Johnston in like the press box, the extended press box, and I was like, this is, like, I'll never top this. Like, this is the coolest thing ever. Like, it's all downhill from here. So enjoy this, Mike. But being on the ice when they won, like, going around and seeing that celebration up close, interviewing people. I remember, like, I remember vividly, like, a guy like Calvin Pickard, who had kind of, I know he was like 25 at that time, but he had kind of, like, gone through so many ups and downs in his career, and going up and just like interviewing him and seeing like the pure joy on his face. Or even a guy like Ben Smith, who had been like a career minor leaguer in his whole career, and he's crying with his kids and celebrating that. And I was basically right behind the camera for that infamous shot of Dubas, like, letting out the lion's roar when he's about to lift the Calder Cup, and that was really cool to see. So it's, yeah, that was really cool. There were little moments, like, for example, Adam Brooks went, he literally went, I would say 30 games into his rookie season, that 2017-18 season, without scoring a goal, like his first goal. And I remember he scored it, I think it was the game winner, on New Year's Eve of that year. New Year's Eve game is like a big deal. And how we do that is him and Jeremy Bracco are really good friends. And when we're waiting for media availabilities, we wait kind of outside their dressing room. And so we see them kind of walk in through the concourse and back to their dressing room. And so we're waiting there. And Bracco, he was, I think, not like scratched that game. I think he was injured or something, but he was waiting there. And literally, like when Brooks comes down after his interview, Bracco just takes a run from like the end of the hall and just leaps into Brooks's arms, and it's just like, I'm so happy, like the bodyguard, like carrying him like that. It was hilarious. And so yeah, just little moments like that were really cool. But probably my favorite moment, it would have to be that, or interviewing Freddie Gote after he scored this double OT winner in the second round series against Syracuse, against the team that, people forget, but had really like critically injured him the year before. So that was really cool. It was a great time. And, every once in a while I miss it.
Yeah. And I know like some of the games that they do have, they are back at Scotiabank Arena. Did you
Mhm.
ever get to go to any of those ones?
Oh yeah. Those were the best. Like those were great. Although hot take, at least for what in terms of the media availability stuff, is that the food at Rico or Coca-Cola Coliseum, because we get like a meal, a media meal at Rico Coliseum, it was better than what we got at Scotiabank. Like that food at Coca-Cola Coliseum is incredible. No, but those games were like, just being able to sit in the press box at Scotiabank Arena, like, which is probably the closest I'll get to, like that with the Leafs. Like it's just so cool. Like you're sitting there, you're like, all of your heroes have sat in some place here before. You get to look down on the ice. It's awesome. So yeah, those are really, really cool.
Yeah, that's something I want to do. I want to be able it's obviously the Marlies first. I think you'd want to cover them.
Mhm.
That was one of the things I wanted to do before, like go and cover them at Scotiabank Arena, like during the Boxing Day game or whatever,
Mhm.
and be able to sit up there and then be able to possibly, I don't know if you did it, go back down to, I think, the concourse and the dressing rooms.
Yeah, so they would do their availability just like outside the dressing room. Like it's very the AHL dressing rooms, especially like the Marlies, they don't open up their dressing room yet. It's kind of, you have to request players and go with that because it's AHL. Like you don't want
Yeah.
to, they need to have their space and everything. So, but even just being down kind of in the hallway, like it's very cool for someone who was just breaking into the industry at the time. Like you never, and also like Chris Johnson puts it the way where we, work at the candy store, like it's, like you do, or the toy factory, I think it was. Like it's the coolest thing ever. I can't believe standing around there looking like I can't believe I get to be here. Any NHL arena would be like that.
Yeah. So, last thing about the Marlies,
Yeah, go for it.
you're obviously, like I said in the intro, Trevor Moore super fan.
Yeah.
How did that become a thing?
Yeah, it's pretty much the one time where I'm like, I'm not an objective journalist here. I'm actively rooting for this player. No, he's so it was at that rookie tournament that the first ever thing that I covered in quotations. I paid out of pocket and brought my laptop, so it wasn't, it wasn't really covering, but no one really knew about him at the time. He was an undrafted rookie who came in, and I remember watching him in that whole tournament, being like, this guy, I really like the way this guy plays. Like he's small, but he's feisty. I really like him, and I knew he was going to be on the Marlies that year, and so I'm going to keep an eye on him. Like for some reason, his game just kind of stuck out to me. And he wasn't putting up numbers in that first season, but he was doing everything right. Like I always bring up this comparison talking about AHL players. Like when you get to a certain age, and he was like 22 at the time. He was getting to the age 24 cutoff when you're not a prospect anymore, and teams kind of have to make a decision on you. So he was getting. I make a comparison where Kirby Reichel, for example, he would score goals, but he would cheat to do it. So he would pad some stats. He wouldn't really back check that much. You could tell that he was like, I want another team to look at these numbers and think, oh, he could be a goal scorer. I'm going to trade for him and put him in the NHL. Whereas Trevor Moore, like I noticed, like he didn't care. Like he would sacrifice, himself for a hit to make the play keep going. He would be a great two-way player, back checker, all that kind of stuff. And I really admired that about his game. And the fact that he was an undrafted guy. He went to the University of Denver as like a walk-on, and essentially just really became one of their best scorers and offense and two-way players as under ex Stars, or I guess former Stars head coach Jim Montgomery. And then he came to the Marlies and did everything. I saw him work. He did everything they asked him to do. He really became a better skater than anyone kind of imagined he would be. He was so feisty in that Calder Cup run. He like that fourth line of him, Brooks, and Marchment were the reason why they won it. And so I really, really liked the way he played. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to track this guy, follow him. I think he's going to be good. No one knows about him. So this is my guy. Like, I'm just going to, in my mind, I'm like, I'm going to make him my guy. The risk is really low. If he doesn't pan out, whatever. But if he does, oh boy, the rewards. And I remember I was having dinner with my girlfriend at the time's parents, um, at their house, and it was during a Saturday night game is against Vancouver, and I wasn't watching the game because I was having dinner, and I remember going up to get some water and checking my phone, and I had like 400 notifications, and it was because he had scored his first NHL goal, and everyone was just like, this kid is like losing his mind, and I was just like, it was great. So I was bummed when they traded him. Obviously, that was actually funny enough. That was the first episode of Live Laugh Leafs for Yahoo. It was the post game podcast that Jessica Cuthbert and I host. That game against New York was our first ever episode, and Trevor Moore got traded right before we started recording. So it was the crazy. Like I had to grapple with losing my guy and also starting the show. So it was crazy. But yeah, he's gonna do great in LA. I love Jack Campbell, so I can't really complain. So yeah, there you go.
Was that game where he scored his first goal the same game that Josh Levo scored his goal against the Leafs?
I think so. It was in Toronto against
Yeah.
Vancouver, but I remember the goal. Like Moore's goal was really good too. Like it wasn't just a bang. It wasn't just like a bang in. Like it was on the rush, and yeah, it was. I think my phone like went from 80% power to like 17% power in like 30 minutes. It was hilarious.
Yeah, that game, as much as you enjoyed it, I hated it.
Oh, because of the Levo goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they won though, so it was fine.
Yeah, but I made a bet with Adam Wild that if he
Oh yeah.
scored, I'd have to eat the peppers, and yeah, it was not good.
By the
But
way, you didn't learn from my mistakes because I did the initial, like I saw Roman Polak Marley's jersey and I said 500 retweets. I drastically underestimated how many followers I had on Twitter because I said, Roman Polak, 500 retweets, I'll buy this Roman Polak Marley's jersey. Didn't even check what the price was. Obviously, in like 2 minutes, it got like well over that. And I checked the price, it was $320. And I said, no way. But you actually went and did it with the Marinson thing. So kudos to you. There's respect. You're a better man than I am.
yeah, I didn't expect. It was so funny because I was like watching the game on the couch with my girlfriend,
Mhm.
and I was just sitting there, and I made the tweet after
Yeah.
he scored, and I was just sitting there laughing because it was going up and up and
Yeah.
up, and I didn't expect it to go. And she's like, "What's so funny?" And I'm like, nothing," because I like I don't have a good job to pay for that. So she's like, "What's so funny?" And I'm like, "Oh, I said something about 500 retweets and I'll get the jersey, and it's going up and up and up." And then Adam Wild retweeted it,
Yeah.
and it went right over.
Yeah. It's Steve and Adam who they look at that and they go, I'm going to ruin this guy's day. And,
Yeah.
but look, it's your thing now. So you got
No,
to live with
yeah.
it. And you did.
It's a good story to have. Like if I ever go to a Leaf game and wear it,
Hmm.
people will
You're
be
the only
like,
person in that building with it.
Exactly. So, and it was funny to like see the guy who was making it. He was like, why do you have a Martin Marincin jersey? Is it for that goal that he scored? And I told him the story, and he had a funny laugh, and he was like, "Oh, I've actually made it like a few times for people."
Really?
Yeah, but I'm guessing it's
Family
either.
members?
I'm guessing, yeah,
Has to be.
because it was the Sport Check in Maple Leaf Square.
Yeah, it
So
had to be family members.
yeah,
There's no way. Although there was this guy who would randomly show up to Marley's games in that first year with an number 85 Edmonton Oilers Martin Brinson jersey. And I remember taking a picture and being like, yo, this guy's here. And the guy, like, for some reason found me on Twitter and was like, yo, it's me. And his display picture was him wearing the jersey. So I'm like, okay, so this is your thing. This is your identity. Cool.
oh yeah, it's definitely funny to have that
Yeah.
connection, and I really hope that one day he'd eventually sign it if
Hmm.
I ever got to that. I actually tried to do something with him in this podcast. I don't know if I should talk about that, but I'll
Silly
leave
state
it.
secrets.
Yeah, I'll leave it at that. But since we're on the discussion of Leafs now, and
Mhm.
you at Yahoo, has there any has there been any favorite moments that you've had there so far?
I mean, my first day was covering the outdoor practice
That was
where I almost froze to death. Because that day was the weather app said it's gonna be -1, and the wind chill was not taken into account on that.
nope.
So I wore like a sweater and like a pea coat because I'm like, I'll look professional, like it'd be fine. And nope, me and she's not there anymore, but Ailish Forfar, we both of us almost died. Like we were like lips were turning blue, but that was a lot of fun. You know what? Just recording the podcast, like it's just so much fun. Haven't been able to do it obviously in a while, but like just the post game podcast, it's just me and Cuthbert in the office late at night, kind of recording this thing. It's great. Like I really like the work environment there. Just like we get to have some fun. I get to put pop culture references in my columns, which is cool. Stuff like that. So yeah, it's been a ton of fun. I only got to do it for 3 months until the world shut down,
Oh
so that was
yeah.
really cool. But hope once things get going back up again, that'll be a lot of fun, and we can kind of go from there. But yeah, no, it's been a dream come true. Like I said, like being able to talk about the Leafs for a living is, I would dream about that as a kid, and the fact that I get to do it, hopefully for the foreseeable future, knock on wood, um, I thank my lucky stars every day for it.
So now let's talk about the interesting team that
Oh boy.
had the roller coaster of a season they did, and they had their good moments, they had their bad moments, but now they're back in training camp. And the big thing on Twitter right now is Nick Robertson.
Oh
And
yeah.
people saying he's not ready, he's ready. What do you think? Do you think he should be in the lineup for the first game against Columbus, or do you think they should ease him into it?
You know what? You don't have any margin for error in this best of five. Like you really, eh, I'm even of the belief that like when it's so tight, hockey's such a chaotic sport, and when you have to, if you lose those first two games, it's basically done because like you don't have the luxury of the 7 game series where you can go down 2-0, and like if you lose those two games, you're win or go home. Just play all your best players. And Nick Robertson, he has proven throughout, his record breaking, or I'm not sure if it's record breaking, but through his insane, like inhuman season in the OHL. Keep in mind too, this guy, like, yeah, if he was born like I think it was 9 days later, he'd be going into his draft year this year. And imagine what he like how high he'd be ranked if he had scored, was it 56 goals in like 49 games or something as like a draft eligible guy. Like that'd be crazy. And the Leafs got him 53rd overall. I'm pretty sure 53rd or 56, either one. It's insane. Play your best players, and that extends to the entire that extends to the entire roster. Like that extends to play Rasmus Sandin even if he's on the left instead of Cody Ceci. That extends to like if you sit goat and have a fourth line of like I think it's Spezza, Engvall, and Clifford. Like just play. You don't have any margin for error. I think a lot of this sort of like appeasing players kind of mentality, and I'm sure we're going to get into that with Frederik Andersen. You got to kind of throw it to the side. Like you need to win these games. You have no margin for error. You have like at max 5 games to move on, or else all of this work, all of this, all these protocols, all of this, leaving your family behind was kind of for nothing. So play all your best players. And if you have a kid who has shown against NHL competition now that he is among the best people in your building, like I'd say he's been like the best player at camp. Like he's playing against these NHL players. And yeah, he's got something to prove, but I'm sure he's trying a bit harder than maybe like a Matthews or Tavares, but he's ready. Throw him out there. He's being used on the penalty kill too in these house divided games. See what you got, because it's much better to to learn that he maybe doesn't have it in game one, and then you at least have more of a runway than go down 0-1 and have to throw him in there and throw him into a dire situation. Like just start him out there, ice your best lineup, be exciting. All the guys will be wanting to kind of set him up for success. I think it would be a great story, and I think if he makes your team better over a guy like Pierre Engvall or something like that, or Frederik Gauthier or another kind of like a serviceable winger, whatever, throw him in there.
Yeah, because especially if he was to come into the lineup for game one, I don't think he would take that for granted. He would go out there and work so hard,
Oh,
and he would just come out all guns blazing.
he is like, did you read the Athletic did an incredible profile on him? This kid is more like this is the most mature like 18 or 19-year-old that I've ever seen. Like I was not like that when I was 18. This kid is like, a lot of people get comfortable in junior, they think they're big deal. He's like, this is a stepping stone. I apparently he sent like 60 texts to the Leafs nutritionist. He works out. He views everything as a business. He's like, when I get in for the day, every meal I eat, every, thing of BioSteel that I drink, it's all a business. It's all, investing in my own self. And I'm like, holy crap. Like I was, playing video games and running into walls when I was 18, and gaining the freshman 15. And this guy's like, he's already like mini John Tavares in the sense that he's like, I'm going to have a nice seltzer water at 9 p.m. and go to bed. And like, it was a little treat. Like he is an NHL player in mind, and it looks like he's an NHL player in body as well. And so, give him a shot, because I honestly do believe that he's earned it.
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know. I'm on the fence about it. I think he should get a shot because GOAT is he's great, but he's not good enough to be that effective on the fourth
Mm-hmm.
line as compared to maybe Engvall. And if you switched up maybe Engvall and Spezza, like that could work. And then Robertson obviously on the third line.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also on the fence about maybe trying to keep it safe as well. But I do think if he was to play in that first game, he would obviously make a difference. And like you said, playing and having the players play around you and like give you opportunities, that would help him a lot more, and that would make him grow and succeed expectations.
Yeah, and at the same, like, if there's any coach who would do it, it'd be Sheldon Keefe. Like, he likes to experiment. He likes to give, kids chances and all that. He actually, his kind of strategy on the Marlies, I know it's different, contrasting AHL coaching strategies to NHL coaching strategies, but he would kind of have a mentality of throwing guys into the deep end and seeing if they could swim. Like for example, if they in ATO season, when the Marlies would sign some dude out of like a Alabama or something, a program that was still Division One but you never heard of, they'd sign him to an ATO in March, and Keefe would be like, all right, first game, it'd be like a random weeknight game or whatever, no one's really watching. All right, you're on the first line, let's see if you can do this. And with Timothy Liljegren as a penalty killer, he'd be like, all right, like this is not like a part of your game that is inherent to you, but we're just going to throw you on the first penalty kill unit to start the season and see if you can do it. If you can do it, great. If you can't, then at least we know what your capabilities are. And so you don't have that runway to to experiment and like learn things about your players. You probably know them before you get into that series. But Robertson seems like he's proved that he can keep up with NHL pace. He can score on NHL goaltenders. And yes, he's playing against the Leafs defense, which is a caveat, obviously, because they're not great. But he looks ready. And if he is better than other players who are vying for his spot, like if he's better than someone who's penciled into the lineup right now, you have to give your team the best chance to win. And if he gives you a better chance to win than, say, a Gauthier or even an Engvall or someone like that, then he's got to be in the lineup, full stop.
Yeah, and I think it was good to see when Sheldon Keefe came in to coach. He brought Spezza back in. I don't remember if Engvall was in before Babcock got fired. I
He
know
had one game,
yeah,
but it just was not like, that was just the worst
but yeah, and then
period of hockey.
I remember he brought Adam Brooks up, and it's giving those players the sort of opportunity to show and
Mhm.
prove themselves, especially if he brings them into their hometown
Yeah.
and makes them feel a lot better. That helps them play a lot better in that game. So I think that's good. But Sheldon Keefe's been great so far.
Mhm.
I the Leafs have been statistically so much better since he's came in. Like you said, the defense, obviously,
That's a
it
personnel thing, though. Like, I
yeah,
don't think that's a systems thing. The
no,
Leafs, like, you trusting, especially in injuries too. Like, that, they
yeah,
haven't had a healthy blue line, healthy team in forever. Like, this will be the first time.
yeah. It's gonna be interesting to see how they come out in their first game. But one of the other things that I thought was interesting throughout this House Divided series,
Hmm.
it's not a big deal. It's Frederick Anderson.
Yeah.
Some fans were thinking on Twitter, okay, he's let in 5 goals in the second game, 6 goals in the first. It's a problem. But
Mm.
do you think there's anything to worry about? Like, should we be concerned?
Yeah, I do. I do think you should be concerned. Because the fact that there's a global pandemic going around has kind of clouded people's memories of Anderson's struggles before everything shut down. He was not, like, if you remember, he like that was the dominant topic of conversation around the team, was Anderson's struggles. And it was like, literally, I went on Sportsnet radio on Good Show, I remember, like, Ian Tulloch and I both went on because JD Bunkis was like, I'm so sick of you guys telling me that it's Anderson's fault. It's not. It's the defense fault. We're gonna fight it out on air. Like, like that. It was. Twitter was a house divided. But he was letting in a ton of goals. It was easy goals too. He looked shaken, and he's also a notoriously, so like he had that going into the layoff, and then now that he's come out of it, he still looks shaky. And we have to remember that Anderson's a notoriously slow starting goalie. Like, I know that's the easy narrative with him, but if the narrative fits, then it fits. Like, he's, Fred Tober is a thing for a reason. And unfortunately, like he actually had a good October this year, but then Fred Tober was, Fred December and Fred January and Fred January again, and then Fred March, and all that kind of stuff. Like, it was, he's had a down year this year, and he's also a notoriously slow starting goalie. And again, when you have no margin for error, when you need to win games right away, you don't have the time for him to ease in. You don't have a month for him to go, okay, now Freddie's getting his bearings. Now he's starting to get on a roll. You need a guy who can hit the ground running and stopping pucks. And I'm not saying that there's a goaltending controversy, but at the same time, like, you acquired a guy like Jack Campbell, who is a very good backup, but I think, has shown that he can stop this, he can help this team. You have a guy who's playing well in these games. You have a guy who seems dialed in. And if Anderson doesn't have it, like, it's not like they're committed to him long term. He has 1 year left he's going into the final year of his contract, and there's a lot of talk around the fact they might not re-sign him. And I don't think they even should re-sign him, because signing a goaltender after age 30 has just never worked out. So, and I think that, fans should be worried. And I don't ever want to stoke fear in a fan base. I think that's kind of cheap, but I do think fans should be a little cautious, just because Anderson seems to have carried those struggles on. But at the same time, like, these are intra-squad games in a training camp after a huge layoff. Like, that's the reason why this training camp exists, so we can get it all out now. So there's dueling kind of things here, but I don't know, man. I'm a little uneasy when it comes to banking this team's hopes on Anderson.
Even if he's facing Tavares, Marner, and Matthews in a line.
Yeah, that's true. That was a little unfair, but at the same, like, wasn't he facing Matthews shots in quarantine like all summer?
Yeah,
like, come on, he should be ready for those.
Yeah, that's true. But I want to stay on Anderson for a second, because when I tweeted out, like, any questions for you, and one was about Anderson, and it was from Gordon Bombay. I don't think that's his real name, because
I think that's the real actual fictional character that was in the movie. He's tweeting you.
Okay, well,
Big
if
fan,
it's
Gordon.
him, he says, how many should have had goals should be allowed on Anderson before Campbell goes in?
Like 2, I would say. Like, if because Anderson would also, if you remember, and this is again defense and whole team starting slow, but there would be a huge trend where, like, 30 seconds into a game, at least would be down 1. And if that keeps happening, like, you cannot run with this guy. So yeah, I would say everyone's leash is shorter, given the fact that this is a 5-game series. There's no, like, I keep saying it, but there's no margin for error. There's no runway. There's no, like, ramp up. It's like you're jumping on a treadmill that's at like 10. Like, you have to be able to run, or else you're going to shoot yourself into a wall and end up on a TikTok or something. So it's, if Anderson shows that, especially if those goals come in quick succession, like, if it gets scored on and it's like, okay, well, he should have had that, but, like, fine, we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. He's being a good goalie. And then, like, 2 minutes later, he lets in another one. Then there shouldn't be any, like, let him work through it, which Keefe has seemed to do with him. It should be like, all right, Campbell's in there right now, because Campbell has shown, unlike, Hutchinson, or McElhinney even before that he can provide relief in the middle of the game. Like, he's a decent goalie for that. So yeah, the leash should be much, much shorter than it ever has been.
Yeah, I think the same thing. Like, obviously Campbell can come in, and he could even, I think he could even start a game. Like, he's that comfortable, and he's good enough to do that. But I think part of the reason why Anderson does struggle, I'd say it is the defense a little bit,
Oh
because
yeah.
it's how it works, and they're not always the best in front of him, especially if you put unfortunately, I'm going to say Martin Marincin in front of him. But
Yeah.
I want to know. Obviously, there's some of the players like Justin Hole and Jake Muzzin. They had incredible years when
Mhm.
Muzzin was playing. What about Tyson Berry? How do you think he's going to come in and fare against Columbus?
Man, I your guess is good as mine. Tyson Berry is the most like he quantifying him is impossible because he has really good underlying numbers. Like he's good at pushing at pushing the play. He's good at breaking out and all that stuff. But he just seems to hurt his team. Like he's a very very one dimensional player. In terms of Columbus, like he needs to be sheltered. Like he cannot be playing, top, even I would say even top 4 minutes. Like they're lucky with Columbus that with the Leafs is that they don't have, like a destroyer line like Boston would, where you can probably maybe eke by with a Riley CC top pair, which they seem to be kind of set on doing, and then you feel much more confident with the Muzzin and Hall as your second pairing. But then it should be Barry Dermott or any mix of that on the third pair. Like Barry should be predominantly focused in the offensive zone. He should be playing on the first. He should be playing maybe second power play unit, and then probably strictly offensive zone starts maybe 15 minutes a game or so. Like he shouldn't be. There were long stretches in the season when guys like Muzzin and Riley were hurt, where Barry was logging 22, 24 minutes a game as a top pairing guy, and he just doesn't have the defensive ability to do that. So yeah, if you can eke by with different guys on that top pairing, then then Barry should be played in a position that's more kind of suitable to his skills, because he's just not able to lock down other teams as a top pairing guy.
Yeah, and obviously Sandin's probably not going to be in the lineup unless
Oh, man.
unless Keith takes CC out. I think that's the point where, like, if it's either CC or Sandin, and if it's I think CC is going to go in because he's the right shot, but obviously I think you could move Dermott up and give him that role. Maybe I'd say top 4 on the right
Mhm.
side, because we know he can do it, and
Yeah.
he he said in like interviews like he doesn't mind playing it. He actually
He's
enjoys
played
it.
it predominantly. Like
Yeah,
he played the right side a lot on the Marlies under Keefe, and they've been trying them out. They've been trying him out that way in training camp as well. So he's good. Like that was his right side was his natural position. I know he shoots left, but that was his, like playing on the right side as a lefty was his natural position going up through junior and minor hockey, and then even a bit with the Marlies. So yeah, you know what? You know what's weird? I haven't heard anything about Sandin in training camp.
nope.
Like it's so I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah,
It's weird.
you don't really see, like, in the House Divided games. You don't really hear much about him.
Yeah,
But again, though, you don't really hear much about CC either.
that's true.
So
Yeah,
it's gonna be interesting to see. Obviously, I would like Sandine over CC, and
yeah.
I'm sure
What
everyone
a hot
would.
take, Nick.
I'd even take Martin Marincin on that third pairing, but
Yeah.
no, it's going to be interesting to see, but it's also going to be interesting to see how their forwards play, and
Hmm.
especially Nylander, Tavares, Matthews, and Marner, and how they come out, and whether or not Tavares can play well after his injury.
Hmm.
And I know people have also said that that injury is hard to have healed. So he had that break. Will he be able to come out and play like he did last season?
I think he will. I mean, like the layoff came at a good time for him because he was clearly battling some things. So I'm more, you know what? Like I think that the big four, they all seem to be kind of firing on all cylinders at camp. From what we've seen, they're all kind of putting up pretty highlight plays and all that kind of stuff. I think um, the biggest question mark for the Leafs is the bottom six, because they were getting absolutely no depth scoring from these guys. And the addition of Ilya Mikheyev back in the lineup is huge. He is like, it's funny because he's not spectacular. Like he's fast, but his shot wasn't that great. but he's just the perfect Jenga piece for the way that this team is constructed. Like he's fast, so he can be good on the penalty kill. He gives him that speed. He has just enough offensive awareness to keep up with like a Marner and a Tavares, or even a Matthews and a Nylander. And when he went down, it was like taking that Jenga piece kind of out of the tower, and it just was swaying this whole time. Everyone kind of was bumped up into a position that they were just a little unqualified for. So I think that the difference, and this is, such a very cliche way of saying things, but like the difference is, can the Leafs get offense from guys who aren't their big four? Like if like we all know that those guys are going to show up. I think it's pretty, pretty set in stone that they're going to come out and they're going to give it their all. But if the Leafs can, if guys like, even a Kerfoot or an Engvall went 19 games without a goal, then he scored on David Ayers and he didn't do anything else after that. If guys like Kerfoot, Engvall, Robertson in a low roll, Kapanen, he went long stretches this season without scoring. If those guys can chip in offensively at like a consistent pace, that elevates everything back up to where it should be with them. So I think those big four, they're the least of the concerns. I think it's the guys under them who need to kind of shoulder the load that they're carrying, that are really going to kind of tell, or going to chart the course for success with the Leafs.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a thing to watch with.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Tavares and them, I'm sure they'll, like you said, come out firing on all cylinders. I'm interested to see how Engvall is going to do because, again, like you said, he had that rough part and then he scored on David Ayres and then he didn't do anything again.
Mm-hmm.
As well as Kerfoot, because when Mikheyev went out, he put Kerfoot with the Tavares line. I didn't think that was a good idea because he
Mm-hmm.
didn't produce as much. And I'm actually excited to see him go back to third line center.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
um, I want to know for you
Mm-hmm.
going against Columbus. How do you think they're going to come out? The whole team. Do you think that they will get past Columbus?
I think they should. In terms, like, I think the Leafs, if you stack them up against Columbus, I think the Leafs absolutely should beat Columbus. Like, Columbus is a good team. They're well coached with Torts, but this is a team who can throw out Matthews, Nylander, Hyman, and Tavares, Marner, Mikheyev, like over the boards at any point. And then, if like this is the Leafs are a very stacked team, at least on paper. Um, they should win. It just whether or not they can start well. Like, this is a team that seems like it takes them a while to, kind of set the tone. Like, they never seem to set the tone of games. They always seem to kind of play to the level of their opponent. If they were playing a good team, it would be like, wow, this is a different Leafs team. If they were playing the Senators, it would be like, oh, wow, this is a terrible it looks like a bottom feeding team that can't break out of its own end. So it really depends on whether or not they are going to decide to set the tone. If they're going to come out and start on time and essentially just show that they're ready. Like, again, like I'm saying, you're getting dropped on a treadmill that's going at basically max speed. You need to be able to already be running before you hit that. And the Leafs, like what we find out with them is that they take their time to ramp up. When they get to top speed, they might be faster than any team in the league, but it takes them a while and they don't have that luxury of time anymore. So I think that, the way that they're running camp and the advantages that they've had in terms of, this is like the hub cities the hub city is in their home city. They're used to it. Their facilities have been open for a while, all that kind of stuff. I think that should give them an edge. There's no kind of culture shock of moving or anything, at least to places that players haven't really been before. But yeah, they have every advantage in the aspect that they should win, but at the same time, this is uncharted territory for everybody. So I don't think that any hard decisions or hard conclusions should be made based on how this goes, unless they just get completely creamed in like 3 straight games.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. August is going to be a big month.
Oh
Not
man.
it's going to be a lot. And especially hockey, you're going to have what was it? 12, 2, 4, 6, 8 and 10, 6 games in a day?
I think it's 4. I think it's
4?
4 games every day.
Okay.
It's like 50. It's like, I think it was 52 games in the first 9 days, which is crazy.
Yeah, it's a lot, especially for that. And then you have the NBA, you have the MLB trying to come back too.
Mhm.
It other than hockey, is there any sport that you're looking forward to come back?
Well, the NFL, number one. Like I always find that I'm a big, I'm wearing a, you can't really see it, I'm wearing a New Orleans Saints shirt at this point because I'm a Saints fan. Despite, what has gone on with their quarterback saying things. But yeah, I love the NFL. I want them to come back. I always find that the NFL season is kind of like the unofficial, just because of being in school and everything, it's kind of the unofficial start of the new year for me. And I love, being able to watch football in the on a blustery Sunday afternoon in fall. That's always been fun. I think baseball just doesn't seem like they even have a plan at this point. I would say baseball because it's middle of the summer. There's nothing great than just watching a meaningless Jays game on a Saturday at 1 a.m. or not 1 a.m. 1 p.m. Sorry, but it doesn't at this point I wouldn't even be able to enjoy it because it just seems like they don't have a plan, and I'd be worried for the players. The NFL is the one that I'm really looking forward to coming back. I love football, and I really hope that we can have, even if the stadiums are empty. Like I just want to be able to sit down on a Sunday and get excited and watch these games and enjoy it. So yeah, hockey obviously number one in terms of enjoyment and in terms of I'm so bored I want to work. Please let me work. Um, but the NFL in terms of enjoyment, yeah, I'm looking forward to them coming back.
So, out of obviously you said that you're concerned about the MLB
Mhm.
returning. Is that the sport that you're most concerned about?
Uh, I mean, I would say so just because they don't have a plan. Like at least other like the Jays are going to play in PNC Park. Like what? Is that San Diego?
No, I think it's Pittsburgh.
Okay, so cool. Oh, that's Petco in San Diego. Yeah, PNC Park in Pittsburgh. But what kind of plan is that? They're just doing that the last minute. At least the NBA, like they have a plan. They're in a bubble. They're pumping a ton of money into that. Same with the Leafs. Not the Leafs. Same with the NHL. So it's like at least those, like whether or not those are going to work, we don't know. Like there's already been a lot of questions about whether or not players are going to respect the bubble in the NBA and all that. But like the Jays were trying to get like cross-border travel to play home games in Toronto, but their players would be quarantined in the hotel in Rogers Center, and if they left, they'd be in, like face jail time. Like just that's like I'm not even convinced that baseball is going to be happening this year. Like I know that everyone's ramping up to it, but I can't see it because it'll be predominantly in the States, and the States have handled this worse than every country in the world combined. Like normal life in some regard is returning to a lot of the places in the world, and the States are seeing 60,000 new cases every day or something like that. So yeah, MLB, just in terms of a lack of planning, is the one that I'm worried about the most. uh, but I don't know, the fact that we are located in Toronto and we have all these athletes who are going to come to Toronto, is a little worrying to me too, if they're going to respect the bubble or not. But that's kind of up to the league to enforce. I think I have more faith that NHL players are going to be boring enough to kind of at least respect that, opposed to like MLB players who are, they don't really like it kind of differs through each territory and each team. I don't know. This is just a crazy situation regardless. So yeah, but the MLB is definitely the one that I'm most worried about.
So I want to stay on that topic for a second. For
Sure.
the NHL, Mur sent a tweet in, and Mur out loud, and
Hmm.
she wanted to know what concerns do you have about the return to play format, is if there's any.
In the NHL,
Yeah, I know you said a few already, but
I'm just it's mainly just it's just like hockey is such a like a okay, in the NBA, like there are only 15 players on every team. You can kind of space things out. Their locker rooms are huge. They're already kind of social distancing the locker room that way. You don't really see a lot of spitting on like floors and stuff because it's the floor. Like I don't think a lot of people. I think it's just a different mindset when you're on ice. The NHL, like, look, hockey. To be honest, hockey's a gross sport. Like when you really think about it, like you're vacuum sealed in hot sweaty pads on ice. Players are spitting, they're bleeding, they're all that kind of stuff. They're losing teeth, they're sweating. When you're on the bench, you're not looking for the water bottle with your number on it. You're looking for anyone's water bottle, and all it takes is one person to test positive, and that could spread through an entire team. And what do you do then? So what I'm most worried about is just the actual like just the like logistical problems that hockey poses, the amount of players, the amount of people that are in the locker room at the same time, the amount of fluids that are getting thrown around, even, you know, unintentionally in the air, on both the ice and in the locker room and in the facilities and all these things. Just, I like, yeah, I'm sure that players will just through the threat of social media shame at this point, because they're all in Toronto and we all know how people will have their phones out, try to catch these guys in the act. I think they'll probably respect the bubble. I'm just more worried about one guy, you know, a false positive or a false negative or something happening, or a guy's asymptomatic or whatever, and, you know, he drinks from some guy's water bottle, and, or, you know, some guy sneezes in the locker room, or even just like shakes his hair like that, and, you know, like, in some respiratory droplets come out, and then next thing you know, like, an entire team or half a team has COVID, and you have to quarantine that team and pause everything. I think it's just such a tenuous situation that I'm most worried about. That hockey is everything's in close quarters, it seems. Everything is sweaty, everyone's heat, like, you know, everything's out of breath. And it just, like, that just seems like a petri dish for you know, a disease to spread. Like, look what happened with the mumps, you know, like a couple years ago. So yeah, that's my biggest concern, is just the logistical side of of hockey actually being played. But I don't know, like, it seems like they're doing everything they possibly can. So like, the NHL at least is doing everything they possibly can to keep this a safe environment. So yeah.
Yeah, I know one of the things that I think it was Chris Johnson that reported it this morning. I'm
Hmm.
not sure. He was saying that teams from Royal York Hotel have that underground access from the path
Yeah,
to get to Scotiabank Arena.
but they're all going to get lost. The path is impossible to navigate.
That's true. But I think that's one of the good ways that they could utilize that from Toronto to do
Hmm.
that. But since we're on the topic of COVID-19, I just thought about this. I don't know how much of an opinion you can give, but
Okay.
how did you feel about the reporting of Austin Matthews testing positive for COVID-19 before he gave his confirmation about it?
Oh, it's garbage. Like, it's like, I have no problem, you know, calling that out. Like, I think, and the team has pretty much as they can, like, call that out too. He's the only player who has had his results publicly released without his consent. Like, even a lot of people are saying, you know, in the NBA, like, all these players testing positive and getting reported, like, they're cleared by the agents first. Like, Woj, rest in peace, is, you know, he's not, you know, sneaking around doctors' offices, or getting scoops and tweeting these things out willy nilly. Like, he's getting confirmation from agents. And, you know, like, the thing is, like, HIPAA is a thing. Like, your health information should be under protection. And if you're not, like, if you don't, the privacy of your own health status, if you don't consent to it being reported, which Austin Matthews very much did not, like, he didn't give any consent for Steve Simmons to report that. And I just think as well that treating treating positive tests like a scoop is just gross to me. Like, I don't think that's, like, I've heard things and I'm not reporting them because that's someone's private business. Like, you don't, if you know, if I got reported for every, you know, like, everything that happened at the doctor's office for me, like, that, you know, Mike fell downstairs and skinned his knee because he's an idiot, you know, was league sources tell ESPN or something like that. Like, it would be embarrassing. You have a right, especially as you know, as an American, which is Austin Matthews was, and or is, and he was in the States when this happened, is if is that your health information is private. And what Steve Simmons did is he didn't go through the team, he didn't go through the agent, he found this out and he put it in a national newspaper, and without the consent of the patient. And that's garbage. And the fact that he now is claiming that, you know, he's holier than thou, and every single time, you know, a player, like, anything gets reported from any other athlete, he goes, oh, but I was tarred and feathered. Yeah, man, like, you're ignoring, because you deserved it, you're ignoring all of the context that's required here. And if someone then goes and reports something else about a player by doing the same thing as you, uh, that person should be tarred and feathered too. Like, you know, just because you did something wrong and then someone else does something wrong doesn't mean that the thing that you did wasn't initially wrong. So yeah, I think that was garbage. I think that was incredibly violating for someone. I would feel very violated if I, you know, if I tested positive and someone just, you know, tweeted that out for the whole world to see. Because as well, like, there's as much as there shouldn't be, there is kind of an aspect of shame to testing positive to COVID-19 that I think we need to kind of eradicate. But people do kind of if you test positive for it, sometimes people, treat you like I've seen people kind of get treated like a leper, like, oh, like you're infected, you're weird, like all that kind of stuff. And you like that's not a way for anyone to be treated at all. And Steve Simmons opened the door for Osman to get treated that way. So I think that having it being reported the way it was just so, I think it was just unprofessional, and kind of violated, both I think a legal hurdle, and also just like that unspoken kind of agreement between journalist and player that, you're going to be reporting on, like, the game and everything in an ethical way. And he did not report on this medical, this kind of medical condition in an ethical way. So I think yeah, I didn't agree with it at all.
Yeah, it's obviously there's a line that you cross. He obviously crossed it. Like when I was in school, we learned, like we got a book of ethics and law, and we learned all about it. And
Hmm.
that was one of the things, like health. Like
Yeah.
you don't disclose somebody's health information unless they give it to you. Like if it was Austin Matthews' friend, you don't go out and be like, "Oh yeah, he has it," and you put it in the newspaper.
Hmm.
Like, I think at the end of the day, you have to get that confirmation from either the player or the Leafs if they were willing to do that. I know the NHL has that unfit to play
Hmm.
thing now, so they're not going to say anything. But if he was to do it, it had to be from that. And just that he didn't do it, it's obvious. It comes from the obvious person.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was also kind of banking on people just being numb to him doing this stuff at that point. I don't
Yeah,
want to, like, slander anyone, but like this
no,
is just not a, like, it's not a professional thing to do. I
no.
just think that it was like yeah, like you said, a line was crossed, and you shouldn't kind of cross that line when you're a journalist, especially if you have access to that team. So yeah, I just this is also what what this pandemic has taught us as well, is it's really kind of opened up, like, a lot of people didn't even know about, your your healthcare privacy, and so at least it's educating people on that.
Yeah. Now I want to go back to a lighter note. I don't
Okay.
want to go to that. I want to talk about the Dangle Navy.
Okay.
So I want to ask the first thing. If people don't know, Dangle Navy is an ESHL hockey team on NHL.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's yeah, it's me, Steve Dangle, um, James Myrtle, Ian Tulloch, Tic Tac Tomar, Omar White on Twitter, and then a couple of guys, Nick Brady and James, and we just yeah, we just play. It's been great. Yeah, a lot of
I,
fun.
I want to know who's the best player.
Oh man, definitely not me. I'll say that. The best player. I think that's got to be, it's got to be Nick. This guy, Nick. He's let me actually get his Twitter at. He's a great guy, and he's incredible. Like, I don't know what this how he does it, but it's incredible. It's at Nick LaFlamme on Twitter. Yeah, he does things that I don't think my fingers can do with the controller. Like, I don't think I have that dexterity, like, built into my brain or muscles or anything. Like, it's awesome. And Steve's pretty good too, although he has a kid now, so he hasn't been playing as much. I haven't actually been playing as much at all, because when I was running, I'd go to bed at, like, 8:30 or 9 at night, and they're all night owls now. But yeah, no, what's funny is that the three guys that aren't in the media, they're probably the three best players on our team.
And after Extra Toasties versus Dangle Navy, it was
Hmm.
the it
Battle of the
was
century.
the battle of the century
Yeah.
to raise money for, it was COVID-19, right?
Yeah, so it was yeah, we raised money for, I think it was Feeding America was Pete Blackburn's charity, and then ours was a COVID charity. I think it was food banks in Toronto,
Yeah.
as well, and then another COVID relief charity. We did a couple.
Yeah. So I want to know,
Hmm.
are you still the team's penalty minutes leader?
Well, I haven't played in a while, so I think someone's probably surpassed me at this point. But it was, let's just say that NHL 21 has a lot of room for improvement. Because just like, you shouldn't even be able to hit R1 in the game, because if you do and you're in the even, like, general vicinity of another player, you will be called for tripping. So I also just like to fight in the game. Like, it's just fun, and it's my one chance to actually be a tough guy. And so if anyone online would challenge me, I'd always accept it. So I'd be in the box for like 10 minutes at least every game just because of that. So yeah, I think at one point I had like 97 penalty minutes in like 4 games in like, one night, which was great. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. I don't even think that's possible. I don't even know if there's 97 minutes and, like actual possible, but yeah, it's a lot of fun.
And would you say Adam Wild is a good coach?
Oh, I'd say he's a good coach.
Nothing
I'm just
else?
gonna leave it at that. I also don't think he was put in a position to succeed. I think he was. He was maybe like it was like a Sheldon Keefe situation where they threw him in the deep end and he couldn't swim. Needs to be sheltered. And I think if he is sheltered, he's a terrifically skilled player.
Should have put him in net.
Yeah, that would have been great for us.
Yeah. So now that's kind of the end of the portion of my topics. There's a few questions that we have. I've already included a few, but I
Hit me.
want to. The first question's from Michael, the Leafs IMO on Twitter,
Okay.
and he wants to know which line combination from the Leafs training camp do you want to see them run most?
I mean, the Matthews Tavares Marner line is like just like I know like actual like logistically that probably wouldn't work, but if you're down by a goal with like 5 minutes left in the game, I want that line on the ice for like 4 of those 5 minutes. Like I want, because what I love about these 5 game series is that like you essentially have to pull out your nuclear option at any time. Like at any point a threat level rises, even slightly. So if you're down, like I said, if you're down and there's like 10 minutes left in the third, you just start rolling the Hulkbuster line and see if they, see what they can do, because you don't really have any time to dick around.
I think it'd be cool to see them try one game with them. I think I put a tweet out with, I think it was Nylander second line center, and a few people were like, no, that's not going to work. And I don't think it would work
Mm-hmm.
because they have to,
Yeah, don't
Nylander's
put
not,
Nylander at center.
he's not a true center at this
Mm-hmm.
point anymore. But it'd be cool to just see them try it. Like you said, even if it was for the last 5 minutes of a game, because I know they would probably wreak havoc on
Yeah.
Columbus. I don't know if you'd say the same about Carolina when they had David Ayres in net, but I think they would do good. Especially, it would be interesting to see how they do against Elvis if he's in net
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
for, and I think he will be. But another thing that we talked about throughout this podcast
Mm-hmm.
was Travis Dermott. And the next question is from Juno at Juno the Leafs. And he wants to know, how willing or not willing are you to part ways with Travis Dermott in the offseason?
Um, I don't want to give up on Travis Dermott. He was the best player to talk to I've ever had. I've been lucky to talk to a decent amount of Leafs and Marlies as well. And by far he's the best quote. So even just on that regard, like I just to lighten things up from a media perspective, I love him. But no, he's shown flashes. He had a rough season this year. But they've never played him on the right side for an extended period of time. So this really depends on how much money he's going to command in his RFA deal, which is going to be one of the most fascinating negotiations, because I have no idea what he's going to get paid. Can't be more than Justin Hall. But I also want to see what he can do at the NHL level on the right side for an extended period of time. Like can he hack it there? Because if he can, that's all. Like if he can give you like a Justin Hall-esque level of value on the right side, even though he's a left shot, that changes the entire shape of your defense. That might even get a guy like Mikko Lehtinen into the lineup next year or something like that. So, yeah, I would definitely not do it just for nothing. I'd like to see kind of what he can do in that role, but if his ceiling is, and I don't think it is, but if his ceiling is just this third pairing left shot defenseman who you might have to pay, who you can get one of those guys at a comparable value for like $700,000. If you're going to pay this guy like 1.6 million, then why not just let him go? So I don't know. I'm not super gung ho on letting him go, but I do want to see if he can fill this specific need that some people are penciling him into.
Yeah, and I thought was he with Jake Muzz or Justin Hole when Jake Muzzin went down? Did
He was
he?
he was with Barry a lot as well.
Yeah,
Like it was him and Barry, which doesn't work as a pairing.
no. I thought he did good this season.
Hmm.
I don't know if he's capable. I think he'd be capable of being in the top four as either a left or a right shot or right side.
Hmm.
But it's going to be interesting to see. Like you said, the negotiations are going to be different, and they're not. We nobody knows how much money he'll get. He's only going to know how much he's going to ask for.
Hmm.
But um, it's going to be interesting to see how they play throughout the Columbus series. And obviously, another question from Robida Island placeholder. I think his at
Okay.
is at Apex One. He wants to know if going against Columbus, will the game intensity be as big with an impact with the fans not being there? Do you think it's going to make a difference?
I think no matter what, it will. Like I just subconsciously, like when you have a rocking building, like it's just it adds to it. But at the same time, I think that NHL players, like, they know how much is on the line here, and if you're going into a game 7 or a game 5, like, I don't think they'll play any. I don't think that'll change the mental state for most of them. But at the same time, like, we're humans. No matter how intense a pickup game is between you and your friends in a completely empty barn, on a Friday night. Like a game 7 on like national television with 20,000 fans literally shaking the foundation of the building, that adds an extra level to it. So, I mean, it was announced today that all games will be kind of aired on a 5-second delay, so we won't hear f bombs, or they can bleep out f bombs and stuff. I was kind of hoping for just a raw, kind of uncut, like just that kind of footage, but we can dream. Yeah, I think it'll impact intensity no matter what, but I don't think it'll be as drastic as some people think.
Yeah. And it's it's I want to say, like, because I know I've heard, and I don't know if you've heard this, that season ticket holders for teams
Mhm.
are being asked to like
Yeah,
send in, yeah, video and audio stuff.
that's gonna
So
be weird. I don't like that.
yeah, I watched like the J when the Jays had their inter squad games. They had the fans' noises throughout the stadium. I just feel like it'd be weird because there's nobody there.
Yeah,
It's just gonna be like if you score, there's gonna be noises, but
no
at the
one's
end of
there.
the yeah, but
It's gonna feel like a sitcom,
yeah,
like with the laughter. Like it's gonna feel like a Disney Channel sitcom where there's no one in like it's just like 80 yard in. So it'll
yeah,
be it'll be really weird.
yeah. And one of the last questions, I think this might be the last one I'm gonna do.
Sure.
It's from I Hate Pants,
Okay. Cool.
and they want to know,
Why I hate pants.
yeah, what would if you were to be in the bubble, whether
Mhm.
that be a reporter? I know reporters aren't in the bubble.
No,
No,
but
so
they wouldn't be hiring me to play hockey, so I feel like it would be
yeah,
yeah.
if you were in the bubble,
Mhm.
and let's assume clothing and medical stuff is included,
Okay.
what would be your luxury item to bring in?
Oh, my PlayStation, hands down. You
Yeah,
know what? My PlayStation, or I have because we're in my room right now. I have a like a cylinder fan that I need to have on to sleep. Like, good for white noise, and also I need to sleep at a very low temperature. So I'd either bring the PlayStation or that, because PlayStation, you can do anything. You watch Netflix on it, you can play games, chat with your friends, all that kind of stuff, which is awesome. It's probably the most important piece of technology I own, and then the fan, just because sleep is important.
yeah, I know. I think Austin Matthews said he was looking at bringing a Switch in.
Oh, that's probably the best. Like, that in terms of like portability, that's probably the best way to go. But I'm a PlayStation guy through and through.
Yeah. So at this point, I want to thank you very much for coming on the inaugural episode of the podcast. It's been a pleasure talking to you, getting to know about you, learning. And I want to know if you have any last words regarding anything in general.
I just want to stay safe. Like, wear a mask outside. It's not very hard. It does not cut down on your oxygen. Yeah, just we're gonna get through this. Not to be too heavy or anything, but wear a mask you're outside. We're gonna get through this, and we can get through it a lot easier and a lot quicker if you just whenever you're out, if you're outside or in a building, public building, just wear a mask. It's not hard, and it'll help things kind of move forward quicker than possible. So um, yeah, just be safe. That's all I'll say.
That's the best advice anyone can give right now, I'd say. But again, thank you so much for coming on. And to anyone who's listening, I'm sure you already follow him on Twitter. It's at Mikey Stevens 81.
Hmm.
Yeah. And again, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you to everyone who listened. I'm trying to figure out if there's anything else I need to add on. I don't think there is. I'll be trying to do this as a weekly thing, so possibly every Wednesday. We'll see how it goes once we hit August. But once again, thank you so much for listening to the first episode of NickTok. If you do enjoy it, let me know on Twitter. If there's anyone you want me to bring on, let me know on Twitter, and let me know what you thought of this podcast with Mike. So again, thank you so much for listening, and I guess we'll talk next week. Now, how do I?
Great.
That was good.
That was awesome, man.
How do I? Oh.